Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. We can wait maybe a couple of minutes to see if more people are joining. So more people are joining, but I think that we can start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second day of this module 2.2 of by Elisava. So co-designing and co-creation. So you already know me, Massimo Ichinelli, associate professor at Elisava. Elisava is the oldest design school in Spain, now first faculty of design. I'm leaving this slide also for whoever will download later because all the content is on the platform already. Just a reminder that in activity 2.2, we are focusing on co-design and co-creation, and mainly for tourism. Because if we collaborate with all the community, maybe we will be able to create solutions that are completely different or much more advanced or complex and refined than if we do alone. And also in any case, because the more we engage the community, the more also maybe our projects will be long-lasting or they have a much better social impact. So on Tuesday, we focus especially on co-design and community-centered design, what they are, some example, and especially how to look at them. While we arrived at thinking about co-design and community-centered design and how to look at them, we started a couple of exercises. And today we are focusing more on working with communities and communicating with communities. But since also on Tuesday I spoke a lot, I talk a lot, today I would like it to be more interactive. Both on Miro, in chat, if you have questions. So let be more interactive this time. So first thing, I launched an exercise, but I think this wasn't really done. So I would like really to do it in probably some 10 minutes because it's very easy. So how do you see a community? So again, think about one metaphor, one analogy you will use for describing what a community is for you. You know, you can look about it for an icon on the knownproject.com. For downloading, you need to create an account, but then you will see you can download also these icons as Creative Commons. If not, just take a picture, screenshot, whatever. But it's just one image to think really about how you see a community in general. This seems simple, but actually it's very interesting for seeing also how we look what we are designing for and with. So if you remember this nobody did it in the end. There was just its example in it, so I will say let's do it some 10 minutes. I will copy in the link here in the chat. I will put a timer of 10 minutes, and then I will try not to say anything. But if you have question, let me know. So the task is to find one icon, one image that describe for you the concept of community, your experience of community, and you add it in one of the canvases here below. You see, for example, in my case, just an example, just a very simple and silly example. I put a pizza yesterday. Since we didn't have time last time and nobody did it meanwhile, let's just do it in 10 minutes. For icons, I suggest in general to go to this website called theknownproject.com. The link in chat. Because you can find a lot of open source icons. This is really good. The quality is really good, and you can use the icons just by citing the creator, or also you can pay a bit for them. And normally, for example, you see some of them, the quality is really good, and really you can find for very different concepts. So what is a community for you? Okay, we can look for community, of course. One icon per person, exactly, just to make it simple. Also because then by group we will have 4 or 5 icons. Normally when I do with students, I ask each students to take 3, because at least you see different possible way of looking at it. So community, you see there they have more these ideas. So I like this one, for example. But each of them you see they're completely different. But imagine that now for me community, I don't know, it feels more like it's a body. Look, body. And then let's see what we find, if there is something that makes sense. A very different way of looking at the body, for example. Maybe we can say organs. You have single organs, or sometimes you have some of them. Or maybe for you, a community, I don't know, it's like a forest, and then we look like a forest. It's up to you how do you see them, but this is a way to very quickly show a concept with actually good quality images. So see, for example, this image might be a good way for saying what is a community. And then if you click get on this icon, and in the end you get basic download, as you see, you need to use the Creative Commons license, which is perfectly fine. For me, I would suggest you to do things in open source. You can download the PNG. Yes. And so you can also, in this case, drag and drop it. You can upload it. And you can add it. Yeah, so this is a very interesting icon, for example. There is no right answer to this. It's up to you how you think a community is. So we do have only participants from group 1 and 4 today. Yes, of course, you can join other groups. Last time we made these groups because I think they were made already in the past, but this is really up to you. This is just a bit of exercise for working together because otherwise it's difficult to do the code part in co-design. Because these modules are mainly for introducing you to tools, approaches, and content. And then when you will be working on your own initiative, of course, is something else. And then you can do what you need to do with much more time. Now it's mainly just for trying to understand a bit of the overall approach and skills. So for this exercise, Elena, think about how you will describe a community. What would be for you the idea of a community, the concept of community? Think if somebody um, need to know it, you ask to you. You think, okay, let's think about one metaphor, one analogy, one concept, that can communicate what a community is, and look for something like an icon, for example, in this project, the non-project. And you just look at these, and it depends also what is, for example. Okay, so for inserting an icon, you can drag and drop it here, or I think here you can do upload, you see, from my device, or upload via URL, for example. And this is the image that I downloaded before. It's here on the left sidebar, the penultimate tool on the bottom, upload. Well, I think for this exercise, if you don't have a group, just post it in one of the canvas. It's not a big problem. And then later we can talk about how to organize the groups. Don't worry now. It was just a way for making it easier for people to understand where to put the image. And maybe see if there were differences between groups. This is 10 minutes. Let's wait a bit more. Hi, Daniel, don't worry. Yes, join the group as last time. I will say just a couple of minutes more, because this is very simple, just to show you a bit how to look at communities, and then we have more to do. Okay, so let's see at the icons. So this why this is important, because if we need to talk about something physical, a house, a tree, a square, a village, we can always see it with different ways between each other in the community, because we have different experiences. But since it's something physical, it's always there. So we'll always be reference to that. It's also easier to talk about the same thing. But when we talk about something more intangible, more fluid, dynamic, it's very difficult, because the way we look at it, it depends a lot on our experience, education, personal history, culture. So normally an exercise that I do with students is, let's find an icon to understand how you see communities. Because imagine you work together in the same community, but each of you has a different way of looking at it. So in this case, in group one, well, not the pizza, because that was an example I made. For someone, community, it's something that connect different people. See the first icon. If you see here, you see a man and a woman, an idea, something, and some other means action. This is nice because you already see also the diversity of community by the idea that you work together in trying to achieve something you want to do. This is actually very nice for a community. And here you see it's actually pieces of a puzzle with different colors. And group of people that look at it and they basically get together to, put the pieces together. So again, this is a very interesting one. And here is the similar one, just, you have two hands trying to put it. So here, if you want, the first one, the focus is more on the people putting the pieces together, and this is more dynamic on the act of putting things together in a community. Let's see in group two, you have more idea that is more organic, three naturals, but it's also could be a hand reaching to other people, in an organic way, or that is something that grows out of what we breathe and what we do. So, for example, in this group, we will always have this organic way of looking at community. Might be similar, if you want. And here, for example, it's more idea of architecture, maybe sacred building, and also flows that gets together, different paths that get together. In group four, we can have a hug, a circle with an opening, which I don't know specifically what it could be because it's very abstract, but it could be the idea that there is always a space for allowing people in. It could be organic as a forest, it could be a party, something that you enjoy doing together. When people going together, but because they love each other, so there is very important this sense of being affection. So you see between the hug and this in this group, there's a lot of idea of welcoming people and in a lovely way. And here this icon it really looks like a cycle of life, but also an ecosystem. So again, like a very organic, natural way of looking at communities, but that it's in tune with its own cycle and the locality and the territory. So in this time, there is not so many big difference I see, but sometimes I see people that are very completely different ways looking at community. But it's cool to see that, for example, the first group is more about people getting together. In the second is more organic. In the third is more about complex structures. In the four is about welcoming in a loving way people also partying and being together. In the fifth one is more about a natural cycle and ecosystem. So you see, it's a community, but actually we look at it in very different ways. So going back to the presentation, so the other exercise, we started co-designing a village hosting initiative. Okay, it was first example of possible do it. Let's talk about it, but later. First, I will talk a bit more about how to do the co-creation with the community. So the important thing, because we will keep working with this idea, is that anytime that we discuss and we design something, with a canvas, we would like always to use this discussion canvas to document what's being discussed. And this is really important for documenting for people who may join later. This is important because if you work just with a group of people, maybe you don't necessarily need to document everything. But for example, in EU projects, we always try to document everything that is said in each meeting. So this part is actually very important, also professional way, and you can expand more and more in the discussion. But in a community, you don't know who will be joining later. Maybe somebody that joined the village later, somebody that was away and comes back. So it's even more important in community to document everything. So how to design and do co-creation? So there are a lot of tools. There are a lot of toolkits and everything. I will show you some resources, which I think are very useful, but also I will explain a bit how I suggest to use them. So there are a lot of tools, and most of the time you find them individually. This book, there is a website, but it's part of a book. It's actually this one. I have it too. I use it myself. It's very interesting because there are 101 design methods catalog, so it's very complete. But the important thing that is also there is a very good explanation about how to use each of them and how. There is a framework within this book, by Kumar, that's basically you have 4 possible approaches or phases to designing, starting from research here. Then from research, we do an analysis. From analysis, we do a synthesis, and then we make something realize. And then if it doesn't work well, we can keep going. So you see, we go for real to abstract here on the y-axis. And from the x, we go from understanding to make. So we understand the real with research. We understand something more abstract with the analysis. And in synthesis, we move from the abstract to making something that then is much real with plans in realization. Okay. You can decide with this approach, you can decide how to use which tool and when. And the book is very good for suggestion of that. Something else that the book suggests very well, and it's important to always keep in mind when we design things, when we have a design process, and this with a community, it's even more important because for sure it's going to be much more messy and complex. The design process can be non-linear. You can start in a point, go back, go somewhere else, move, come back, cross with another one. Only in movies, things are very linear and simple. Okay. Or they could be also iterative. You can start from a point and you keep going in cycle, and each cycle expand, or in any case, each cycle, repeat what we've been doing. So again, even if you see squares, don't think that it's very linear. Just, we start from squares, but we can do much more based on that. Yes, Daniel, do you have a question? Do you have a question, Daniel? Okay, if you have a question, let me know. So okay, you like it. Okay, then another similar approach. This is actually something you can also download for free, but it is not as complete as the other one. Is this DIY toolkit that was done by Nesta Rockefeller Foundation more than 10 years ago. It's very broad. It's a lot of design methods. It's aimed to be done for social innovation, but actually it's very broad, so you can done for anything. One interesting things about this toolkit, it doesn't have 100 methods, 30 methods, but they already are categorized about what you would like to achieve. So I want to look ahead, we have these tools. I want to develop a clear plan, you have all these tools. Clarify my priorities, collect input from others, look ahead. Okay, so this is good because you already know, if you already know what you need to do, this is already a suggestion of different tools. And some of them, they're very already use a lot of time. You will find personas, you will find business model canvas. It's a good collection. The good thing is already it tells you for which is your aim, your goal, what you would like to achieve. You already know what it will be a selection of tools. Because the point is, it's very difficult, to choose among all the tools that we could use. Another example where you can go look, this is much more advanced, but there are very important insights. This project, this code, is a European project I worked on several years ago. We work on using co-design for co-creating science policies with communities and citizens inside laboratories, like science museums, living labs, and fab labs. So we needed to design basically co-creation journeys in terms of working with policy. So it's much more advanced. So don't worry about that. But we can go to do something simpler than policies with village hosting. But the approach was very interesting because already back then we thought, okay, there are so many toolkits, there are so many tools, and all of them, they have personas, they have business model canvas. We don't necessarily need to do the same thing. Let's do something else and try in any case to support people in using tools and also for co-design, not for broadly doing design. So in this code, we decide to have a very simple 4 steps framework. Again, like Kumar, this is just a starting point. It could actually be more complex. And again, starting from context analysis, reframing the problem, ideation, prototype, and testing. It's very similar to Kumar. It's just, more to really reframing and thinking and texting than to be very broad. And what we did was basically also we created a toolbox, which is a PDF you can download. What we try to decide there, and you will see more later, is that, okay, we have these 4 phases, okay? How do we design the phases? Because otherwise they're too abstract, they don't make any sense, okay? So we thought we can decide a few things about what each one of these 4 phases is, and think that instead, inside there will always be some activities, and each activity will use a design tool. And then we can put this together, and create a whole process. And then, this also can have iteration and so on. And what we did with Design on Canvas is to document all of this. Why to document all of this? Because anyone that then participate in the process know how the process is unfolding. So what we now did in Elisava, we basically designed a new version of that toolbox, but specifically for village hosts. So there was a bit of a surprise today. There are inside the 2 canvases that you saw, the 3 canvases that you saw on Tuesday. Okay, but it extends a bit. So this again is also something open source that you can download. Also the Cisco tool, when we did it, we did it open source. So that's why we're also building on top of that and creating a new version. But this is specific for the villages. I will explain it a bit, then we can use it because we want to use and do more interactive things. There are 2 parts in it. One is co-designing a village host initiative. Okay, and this is what you saw the Tuesday, the village and the hosting with all the discussion. Okay, so this is co-design if you work together with other people, but you can also do it alone, but it helps you a bit, or I hope it helps you in thinking about the village and the hosting. Okay, so what we need then is how do we engage with the community, how we communicate with the community. That's the part. It's more complex than why I split the 2 lessons, and also would like to have a bit more of this today. And again, I think that they work well when we have more time. These work well with a workshop. It's not the full, village hosting is the full project, but it's very good for discussing about what we are doing. So Alexander has a question if the platform is open source. So yes, the platform is open source. I have, I think, another slide later that show you. There are some components that are in open source, unfortunately, but the platform itself is also open source. So you can also join the discussion and development about how to improve it. And the toolkit is open source as well, meaning that you can reuse, you just have to credit the first versions. So as you say, yes, the platform is open source. That's the slide. So this is actually one of the discussing. Yes, we use the BuddyPress plugins and a lot of other things. If you go on GitHub, you will see what we are using. It's much more than WordPress and Moodle, and there will be more in the future. So if you're familiar with GitHub, and in any case, all the discussion, you see that there is always with a topic, and there is a thread of discussion, comment. So again, this is the one possible way for documenting a conversation, and this is what we are using here for all of this. So the second part is about co-designing the whole process. So documenting it and discussing, how should we work together in co-designing this? So we start from one specific thing. You remember this image from the other day, the legitimate peripheral participation? This theory that says in community of practitioners, there is a core group of old-timers in the community, the people that work more, and people that join the community first, they are at the periphery, and the more they engage, the more they work, the more they learn, they get toward the center, and then they get to be part of the core community. This is how a healthy community can work. You remember also, when I show you some analysis I did of the maker community in Italy 10 years ago, we could also already see this structure. So it's the theory, but actually has been observed in reality. So the first canvas in this part is actually about thinking how to have the engagement of the community, and how have everyone to join more and more. Okay. So this is the stakeholders canvas. The toolbox you will see always has instruction for how to use it. Basically, if you think that the staff that is co-managing the Village House initiative, then has to work with providers that co-produce it. Then you have partners co-delivering the full thing. And then we have a community that you can consulting, and finally you have guests that you are informing. So what does it mean? Here you need to map where your people that all the stakeholders are. You think you already worked with stakeholders with Aya and Laura a couple of weeks ago. So here where you decide where they are, considering your community and the level of engagement, and also how they use it, they are working. So you see, the more you go towards the center, the more you have level of engagement. There's a part where you have stakeholders involved or stakeholders impacted but not directly involved. You see here. So this is a way for mapping well, how people interact. You will see much better also in later in Miro, because we're going to work on this in Miro. Once you know the stakeholders, we think about all the phases. So remember on the other day, we can have also iterative cycle. If we think about few steps, few phases, this is the user-centered, human-centered ISO standard. Myself, I have modified, about adding the collaborative individual part and distributed part in the maker movement in this book. This is something that can be expanded. In this case, we want to do something simple, so we adopted still the 4 phases of Syscode. It can be more complex, yes, absolutely, but I think this is enough for discussing at the beginning. So again, the phases are analyzing the context, reframing the problem, envisioning alternatives, and then prototype and experiment. So again, this not necessarily have to be completely linear, and especially it could be iterative. You can be going up again when at a certain point you evaluate. You can evaluate always what you're doing, but especially when you prototype an experiment, you evaluate what were your assumptions, what you designed. So maybe you go back to the first part. So there is a canvas for discussing what each phase is doing. So in terms of activities, in terms of stakeholders, the roles of stakeholders, what they're doing, and in terms of the outcomes. You can add the end date, the start date, and the end date, and you can tick here which phase it is. Then we say inside of each phase there are activities. It's up to you what it is also to organize. Each activity has some objectives, some tools, some outcomes, and some duration. outcomes because they fit to other activities. For example, same for the phases. You have outcomes, and maybe this outcome is important for the next phase or the next activity. So what's interesting, for example, in the activity here in tools is where you can then choose the tools from the 101 Design Methods book or the DIY Toolkit book. So we don't want to add more tools, but just creating the tools that let you organize existing tools. This is very important because it lets you, really do whatever you want in your project, but at least it basically lets you organize a bit of the project. And finally, the last one, made a list of the activities or the phases, and then you can draw lines saying basically what is the length in months. We divided each month in 4 parts, so you can be in weeks. You can also, print this, put another one, so you can have more than 1 year. You can do more years. And this, then they don't have to be linear, one follow with the other. It's up to you to draw, and one can start before, later you can even join them, but it's up to you to think about the timing. Here you can already set start date and end date. You see at the bottom, but here is where you see everything put together. So the idea is basically now to work on that. I created another canvas. This is a bit of the structure. You will see better in Miro. But basically, first we start with stakeholders, then we have the 4 phases, and then finally the process, the overall thing. Then what happened? Each of them, they have a discussion canvas. And then under each phase, you have activity and a list of discussion. This could be expanded. You can also organize a different way. It's more complex, yes, but with this, you're organizing the work, for example, of a year or 2 years, 3 years. It's difficult to see there, so maybe let's move to Miro. I will copy and paste the link there. First is if you also have questions, comment about the village and the hosting canvases. I don't have much more to present. There is another bibliography at the end of the presentation and everything. But I would like that we work more, that you start working with the tools. And if you have questions, you write in the chat or you tell me. Here it is. And I will also copy you the link of the Toolbox. As you will see, there is a block of this for each group. Here is also the link to the toolkit, to the toolbox. Another important comment about design thinking and all these canvases that probably I said on Tuesday, but I will repeat. They give an impression that it's very simple to design things and you can do very quickly, but it takes time. So of course, I don't expect that everything can be done in 2 sessions of 1 hour and a half. But what I would like to introduce is a set of tools. Some is more conceptual, so how to look up at designing things, and some that are more really like tangible tools that you can use and try to organize your co-design during the summer and then also during the next years. So again, this is now more for you to get familiar, ask questions, let's discuss. We can talk also about the other two village and Austin canvases. Okay. The important thing that I think this is something that can help you design individually, but also then with all your stakeholders when we are working during the spring and summer. I know that with I and Laura saw also the layer. They are training, you work with stakeholder. This is the idea, to start understanding more what is the position of your stakeholder, how you could engage them more, and then see how they could move more and more into the process, into your community. We also wanted to use tools that were already used or the developing, we just expanded them. So at least it's something that is more tested. But also in the next months, whenever you have any questions, idea about how to use these, please let us know. And then when you get to the toolbox, you will see that before any canvas, there is a page of explanation about how to use them in the discussion. I'll let you explore a bit all of these, and then maybe we can talk about it in some 10, 15 minutes. Meanwhile, if you have any question, comments, just let me know. Daniel, about the group, I think you can use still the group of Tuesday, which I think was based on a previous one. And again, since now you all have different village hosting initiatives, it's just for the exercise. What does it mean, to discussing together. I think all these tools will be much more clear, especially when you will apply to your case, when in your locality and you get the people involved there. And then the toolbox was designed to be printed in A4. Yes, no problem. It's tricky to use the online platforms like the Miro in any case. Yes, the toolbox is in A4, so you can print it, download and print it, and you can print all the discussion canvas as you need, all of this as you need. And we did it in A4 because, for example, business canvas is much bigger. I think it's A2. And of course, you can do a lot of things in A2, but who has an A2 printer? So we did it in A4, so it's easier for you to print it at home and put it on a wall and then use the post-it and draw on that. Yes, well, when we have something social, we add social to what we do. We have both the good and the bad social. So the more people, the more it could be messy, and we need to organize it a bit. And of course, there is a limit to how many people there could be, in the same space. Um, but if it's, sometimes it works really well and helps you really understand a lot of things. And the good of engaging the community is that in the end, you can do much more because they also can understand much better what you're doing with your village hosting initiative. I know what you feel. I've been in communities for many years, and sometimes, you need to change a bit. But let's say at least with the toolbox, you can also print it and use it outside of Miro. You can have heated discussion outside of Miro too, in real life. Hi, Irene. So how would you use the stakeholders page? Yes, it's also if you want for wishes for your situations, because think that you know you can start to just at least for understand where they are, but it could be also a way for understanding how they could move from one position to another. Imagine how, for example, could a guest become part of the community or become part of the whole initiative. So that's why we added that what each of these they do. Here they do co-managing, co-producing, co-delivering, co-consulting, or informing. This is what you will do with people. And again, this is just how you use it. Ideally it's paper or digitally, so you can also draw arrows to decide the flows or how they can move, so you can add and decide where they are. It's mainly for understanding where all stakeholders are compared to your initiative, how closer they are, and how closer they could be in terms of engaging in the initiative. And also another important thing, if you have any suggestion for improvement of all of this, just let us know, because for sure we can improve things and we can add, and maybe we will also do in the future. But consider that here we are still thinking in terms of community. If we think in terms of, I don't know, company or a museum or a public institution, it's difficult that it works there. But when you think in terms of community, it's a good way for organizing everything. And it's not just about the discussion in the community, but also how your initiative is linked to all the community, to all the actors for making your initiative possible. So that's why we added all, co-managing, co-producing, co-delivering, providers, partners. A provider, even if you don't talk a lot with him or her, they really are, close to what you're doing in terms of your initiative. They're really key people, key organizations, and they contribute a lot, much more than external partners that, yes, they can give you something, but not the same level. And same for community. And we try to add guests because it could be a role, of course, anyone could be a guest, even somebody very experienced in the community, but normally they arrive, at the border, it's really at the periphery of what your initiative is. If you think of your initiative as something that is a community that is then co-design or has to be co-designed. Thanks. I hope this will be very useful, and really, really, please let us know how you use them, how they could be used, and for sure we will ask you about them, because we want to do a bit of research on it and actually to improve this so that they use in real life. I know it's a lot of A4 papers, but then if you do workshops, well, with a big enough wall, should be working well. And also we did a lot of work on trying to make this simple. So the way, for example, phase and activity seems simple, it's actually based on many years of research and very complex research that we want to spare you the pain. And so it's not random. They're all things. There is a lot of consideration about how they are designed and how to use them. Yes, of course, Elena. It's in the end not too complex, but of course it takes its time. Um, and the idea is that more than something you need to complete now, but it's more that you start to get familiar, so then you will do in the spring your initiative. Because here, when you work with the community, we really cannot, replace inside our 1 hour and a half workshop. You need to work also there. But I hope that at least Tuesday today I gave you a bit of input about how to consider community and how to consider co-designing with them. Ella, so how much time do you say we'll need to take all these steps with a group in real life? You mean doing a workshop or organize the full thing? Okay, the workshop. Well, for several canvases, in any case, I will do at least half a day because then you have breaks and there is a lot of discussion. If you use only one canvas, yes, you can do it in 1 hour, maybe half an hour. Imagine the typical business model canvas. But of course, it depends also on the discussion you have with the participants. If there is less or more discussion. Again, it may be good to propose example of facilitation of working session on these tools together with the tool itself. I don't know if we can also maybe do something in Grottole, but of course we cannot do something very long, I think. But maybe I don't know. I can ask for a 1 hour when we try to check this again. Yes, in general, of course, it would be good to have somebody experienced it to lead you all through the process. But also, we both in the Cisco Toolbox and in this, we have the one page of instructions for each canvas, or sometimes two canvases, but there are some instruction. In any case, it's actually quite free, and it's something that you will see more and more you work. Because the idea is, yes, you can do a workshop with this. This is very important. I will stress again, but the workshop will not replace designing the full thing. So maybe it's something that it will take more time. So imagine if you have a wall that you fill with this, maybe they should stay there, even after the workshop, so people can keep adding post-it, and it's something that keeps going. I don't know of any community initiative that really was done quickly in very few hours or in the morning. Especially when there is a lot of discussion. If you say, I don't know, let's cook something together, you organize, you can do in a few hours. But when you discuss how things are, it takes a bit of time. So my suggestion with this is to start small, to start simple, with just the 4 phases and one activity per phase, and then you realize, okay, do I need more activities? Do you need, that the 4 phases are repeated? It's iterative. Do you need more tools and different tools? A bit of time, yes. Working with people needs a bit of time, a bit of energy, a bit of patience, a very big bit of all of this. Yes, I would say at least half a day, because I think that even just one normal canvas between you explain and you start using, easily 30 minutes, 60 minutes are gone. I think, with the business model canvas in mind, because it's the one that is probably more popular, at least 30 minutes, 1 hour, you will use it. And imagine you need to do more canvases. But again, it depends a lot on all the discussion, if you have more discussion with the participants. But the important that this is something that keeps going. It's not one workshop that can replace the full designing, but it's something that can help you keeping track in a simple way of all the process. We still have some 10 minutes in our official timing of the training today. Do you have any question, comment about code design, about the canvases, anything? So Selena is asking if we can see some examples anywhere. Um, I will need to see if in SysCodeAware publishes some example how it was used. Otherwise, maybe we could try to do in Lisa, we could try to do an example and then also publish it and give it to you. But in any case, said before, if you download the toolbox, every canvas has some instructions to explain how to use it. But again, these are not exact tools, that everything is precise. It's up to you for discussion with other people. They're all the canvases you see, they're always meant just basically for facilitating the discussion about certain topics of a project. So how to use them, the way you prefer, the way it supports better your discussion with all the other people discussing them. You can draw on them, you can put post-it, you can cut them. That's why I'm saying these are not for designing. It's per se, they're more for discussing, they're more for workshop and taking idea out of one's mind and with somebody else. So it's really about how you would like to use. And again, maybe we can try to find some times in Grottole for, do some tests and check them together. So maybe if you arrive there with already, some of these done for your case, maybe I can have a look or we'll organize some times and we can discuss together. Yes, also in the next months. Well, we are not always online all the time, but feel free to send emails or maybe also post in the platform, in the community part, so we can discuss things there. We like to see also how you use them, how we can improve the toolbox, what could be done next. My suggestion is, try to use it, try to use it in some way. And when you get with back to us, at least you have something already a bit done so we can understand better. So it's probably difficult on Miro in little time, and especially each of you, they have your own different village hosting initiative. So it will be much easier when you use it locally with your community for each of your initiatives. So it's easier for you to understand how to use this. I'm taking note of all your comments. So you really suggest to add also questions about the blind spots. So not only who's there, but also who's missing. Yes, absolutely. It's up to you to do that. For example, imagine that in a workshop you use the typical yellow post-it for who's there and I don't know, green post-it for who's not there. So visually you see the difference. If you remember in the village canvas, we added the plus and minus sign to already clearly say what's missing, what's not, because there is very critical because especially a lot of time it's infrastructure, the problem of um, rural areas. So it's good to also to really clearly say what's there, but what's actually missing. And here it's up to you how you use the color and draw. Is basically, it's really for letting you taking the ideas that you have in your mind, putting out of your mind so that somebody else can also see and understand and they can also do the same thing. So it's 7. So Ella, the village canvas is already part of the toolbox. When you will download the file, you will see the village and the OST canvas, they are part of the toolbox too. No, no problem. I just I show you the village and the OST canvas and the discussion on Tuesday. And today we added all of it because if we show all the canvas here at the same time, it seems like, wow, it's a lot of work to do. So that's why we wanted to keep it simple. And also because one thing is the village, the hosting, you could do it alone. It's not necessarily co-design per se. If you want to work with other people and discuss, you're already co-designing. But here we go to another level. Imagine that you need to design your village host activity and it will take 2 months, 3 months, or you want to do 1 year of work. So then maybe you need to organize it. So that's why we have the other part. Any other question, comment? Because it's 7, so if there are no more comments, I will say let's talk then on the platform or their email. We'll see in Rotole. Have a look and try, especially these. We will probably give you more examples or content about this. All the contents are on the platform, so you can see the presentation and everything. Okay, think about them and then let us know, because we are very curious to see how we can support you with that. Thank you. Have a nice evening.